You awaken in a basement, or maybe a dungeon? The stone walls are wet. The air smells like copper and cologne. You're barefoot, in a torn and dirty nightgown, and no memory of how you got there. The door is locked. You bang on it, scream, and someone, or something, answers. It frees you, a cost you will be expected to repay later. For now, music, laughter, velvet. You push open the door and step into a ballroom full of strangers. They're dressed in finery, eyes red, smiles sharp. They all turn to look at you. You weren't supposed to wake up yet. But then, you always did run ahead of schedule. You're Lisa. You used to be a doctor, a woman of reason. You believed in the body, in healing, in science. Now, you're a vampire. And your body is no longer yours. This isn't a story about power, not really. This is a story about restraint, and what happens when restraint starts to weaken. Welcome back to the Point & Quest podcast. I'm Lindsay, and if you're new here, welcome. If you've been here since the Fran Bow episode, thank you. That one was rough. It was. This month marks 1 year of the podcast. I started this at a time when I was not doing well, mentally, physically, existentially, all of it. I thought it might be cathartic to play a psychological horror game about trauma and grief while actively spiraling. Spoiler, it wasn't. That first episode was messy, a little raw, and honestly, kind of awful. But it came from a place of needing to talk through something, needing to pull something apart so I didn't fall apart myself. I started seeing this little podcast not just as an outlet, but a space to slow down and not take myself too seriously, to play silly little games and think about why they affect us the way that they do. I sort of initially wanted this to be a short form thing, but I'm slowly getting used to the sound of my own voice, and I think I want to transition into a longer audio-only format, so I can hopefully be more consistent with recording and posting and all the things folks come to expect from podcasts these days. That means I'm probably going to do less scripting and maybe try and be more personal. I don't know. If that's not your thing, I understand. So today, I want to take you with me through a game I played quietly, slowly, carefully. A game that got under my skin in the best of ways. That game is Cabernet. So, let's start at the beginning, shall we? Cabernet is a narrative RPG from the indie studio Party for Introverts. Released in 2024, the game is a moody, philosophical slow burn set in an alternate 19th century Eastern European town. You play as Lisa, a newly trained doctor who is a newly turned vampire, unwillingly turned, and not without cost. That transformation doesn't come with power in the traditional sense, at least not complete and total domination. What it does come with is responsibility, hunger, and the slow decay of everything you thought you believed. Lisa is complicated. She's reserved, guarded, smart, but deeply unsure. The game doesn't spell out her morality or sexuality, but allows you to shape them through choice. She's also a female doctor in the 1800s, which already says something. The game never screams it just lets you be her. The game opens with your funeral. You're mourned by your uncle, brother, and mother. They say some kind words about you, and this is where you get to pick some of your stats, since this is an RPG after all. The exposition is honestly rather long, but it's beautifully done. Then the scenes shift into a black and white and red storybook retelling of a memory, or a dream. Lisa awakens from her dream in a dungeon. She doesn't remember how she got there. You guide Lisa upstairs, and a grand ball is happening right before your eyes. You're greeted by Countess Orlova, tall, elegant, terrifying. a matriarch of the old blood. He reminds you, gently, firmly, that your second life is not free, that you've been chosen, that you must behave, that you must serve. You meet the other vampires in her orbit. The names glide past like perfume and poison. Then you're told to go with the Hussar for some Vamp 101. Hussar is the emissary of Countess Orlova. When you first meet him, he is cold and formal. He doesn't tell you his real name because it doesn't matter. He's just been referred to as his job title since before he can remember. He wears an official uniform and speaks in clipped tones, with just a hint of sarcasm beneath the etiquette. He's not here to explain things. He's just here to make sure you behave. But as the game progresses, you realize that Hussar isn't without heart. He's deeply tied to the system of vampiric control, and he can't escape it, at least not alone. He's loyal to Orlova, to the rules, to the hierarchy of the undead, but there's wariness behind his words, maybe even doubt. He checks in on you periodically, comes to your rescue, and honestly offers more guidance than your sire. His visits serve both a mechanical and emotional purpose. He teaches you all the vampire ways. How to feed, how to fly, how to charm, how to turn invisible. There's history in the way he talks to you, even if it's not your history. It feels like you're stepping into a lineage you don't fully understand. And Hussar is both your reluctant guide and your probation officer. He embodies one of the core conflicts of Cabernet, control versus autonomy. He represents the price of power and the weight of tradition. He's not a villain, but he is a consequence. And you can eventually learn his tragic backstory, befriend him, and help free him from his servitude. Unfortunately, you can't romance him, despite how flirty he seems in the beginning. But there's good reason for this, and I actually like it better for his story arc. After cleaning up a bit, you meet the only human at the party. He's kind, and he's the only one who seems to notice your peril. His name is Petya. He's a skilled doll maker, but a very poor salesman, and very, very fragile. His father disapproves of his lifestyle, and you begin to realize that the doll he carries serves more as a metaphor or a mask for his life, which is cut tragically short. He's drained dry at the party, carelessly, accidentally. You take the doll he was holding, Matilda, home and set her on your shelf. Truly tragic. But fret not. Petya's story is far from over. You eventually leave the party and make it over to Dr. Volkov, your sire. This is where the game truly begins. He has a room already furnished with your coffin. Eventually you ask him questions, how you were turned, how he was turned. You can needle more and more every day. And almost all your dialogue options will have an effect on the way in which people perceive you. You slowly start exploring the town at night, because daylight is no longer safe for you. Lucky for you, this town is full of night owls. There's a little sundial on the side of the screen that tracks the time of day or night. You'll come to find that some interactions take time to complete. So you'll need to strategize a bit so you don't burn up with the sunrise. Lisa is given a sort of journal or portfolio, and here the player can see the core stats you can build: history, arts, science, and literature. You can boost these stats by performing tasks that correspond to them, such as reading books on the corresponding subjects. You can also get stat boosts depending on your wardrobe. There are a variety of outfits to choose from, which I loved because this whole game already has such a paper doll quality to it, and this just really added to it. There's also this vampiric rating, which increases as the story unfolds. This game is very Quest for Glory-ish in the way that there isn't much or any real fighting involved, which honestly was quite a relief for me. The town is small but layered. You meet merchants, aristocrats, strangers with cloudy eyes, revolutionaries. You can feed on almost anyone you have a relationship with. But feeding isn't fun. It's not a power trip. It's ethical, emotional, sometimes tragic. You can choose to drink just enough to survive, or you can drain someone entirely. You can become drunk on blood, which has consequences. or you can starve yourself and see what happens. Every decision, every action, you're tracking consequences like a surveillance system you can't turn off. Feeding in Cabernet feels like that. You want to do the right thing, but what is the right thing? How much is too much? When does survival become harm? It's not just about blood. It's about being seen and choosing who you're willing to hurt. As I mentioned before, you live and work for Dr. Volkov. He's a fellow doctor, stoic, familiar, and he's the one who turned you. Yep, your mentor made you undead without even asking. You can hate him, you can thank him, you can try to understand why. Me, I wasn't really sure how to feel. He's not cartoonishly evil, just complicated. Sad, like someone still trying to justify the unjustifiable. And honestly, I get that. Later in the game, you realize that he's trying to perfect a formula for a non-addictive type of blood. But in doing so, he himself has become addicted. A feral vampire turned him. And if he continues, he'll become just like the monster who made him. If your relationship points are high enough, you can convince him to stop this pursuit altogether. I really ended up liking Dr. Volkov, and we had a good relationship throughout the game. Not long after, you meet a cat. Yes, an actual cat. Friendly, round, and orange. I have 2 ginger cats, so obviously I was excited to see him. You can name him. I chose Augustus, because it was the most dignified name on the list. You can befriend him, pet him, feed him fish, and he'll eventually become one of your most loyal companions, if you can find him. The next few nights open up slowly. You explore. You study. You choose what you want to do. Do you spend your time learning the town's history? Practicing your social graces to navigate the upper crust? Or doubling down on medicine and logic? I went hybrid. Some art, some science, light on history, which was probably a mistake. Certain quests are locked behind checks. If only I'd read that book type stuff. You'll miss things. You'll regret things. And the game doesn't care. It doesn't punish you per se, it just moves on. Which feels honest. It also adds to the replayability element. You can choose to strengthen other relationships, have other conversations, and make different decisions on your next playthrough. Ultimately, there are only 2 endings, I think, but the epilogue kind of makes up for this. Let's talk about love in Cabernet. The emotional and political stakes of Cabernet don't just play out in ballrooms and salons. They bloom most powerfully in the people you choose to connect with. Relationships are central to your experience as a vampire, opening new quests, scenes, and choices. And yes, you can kiss them, feed on them, fall for them, all while wondering whether any of it is real. Every major character has a relationship meter you can grow or sabotage through dialogue, actions, and side quests. The relationship system lets you unlock romance options, including kiss and spend time alone, feed on characters you've bonded with, enchant them with your vampiric powers, enter their homes, once you've received permission, of course. And romance is not monogamous in Cabernet. Not if you don't want it to be. You can pursue multiple romantic paths simultaneously, and each one reveals something new about the world and about yourself. The game makes space for experimentation, for cruelty, for care, and for confession. I like that gender wasn't an obstacle at all in this game. In that little journal or portfolio type thing, you have a relationship map. It tells you how close you are to each character, if you've unlocked romance, if they're enchantable, whether you can revisit their home. There are key symbols for this. So like the purple aura means enchantable. The heart means that they're romanced. There's even a veil to note the deceased. Suns are humans, moons are supernaturals. All right, so let's dig into the people you meet. Because Cabernet doesn't hand you a love interest or sidekick. It hands you people. Messy, morally gray, sometimes annoying, often vulnerable. Let's start with Elisa, voiced by Samantha Bart. As a perpetual Carlac romancer, I squealed when I heard their voice. Elisa is sharp as glass and twice as cold. She's impulsive, fierce. You can romance her, but it's not easy. It's not even always healthy. She doesn't let people in. If you want her trust, you'll have to earn it. And if you break it, good luck. There's an interaction early on when she asks you if your life is more important than a mortal's, more valuable. And you can make her see the humanity in things. She's a long-lived vampire and the Countess's daughter, so her humanity has been dulled for quite some time. But you can change that. Petya is the doll maker I mentioned before. Human, sweet, kind. His storyline made me so sad in the beginning. He's someone who doesn't understand the game he's in, and that makes him both precious and terrifyingly vulnerable. You'll want to protect him. He does end up getting killed at the party, but he comes back into his beloved doll, Matilda, and has to relearn life as a doll. It seems really, really strange, but he seems really happy in this new form. And I'm not really sure if he is the correct pronoun to use. It's kind of unclear. There's definitely a conversation to be said about gender and identity and the vessel in which you were born into versus the one that you create. Evgeny. Evgeny is a human. We learn pretty early on that he's a poet and an alcoholic. He's Anastasia's husband, and their marriage is far from a happy one. His quest was one that I failed in my first playthrough because I ended up sacrificing him to the nav without a second thought. Because Anastasia deserved better, and by better, I mean me. But yes, Evgeny is a poet, an addict, a bleeding heart with a flask in his coat. He can be romanced, and I can't personally tell you about his story arc because even in my other playthroughs, I almost always kill him. Sorry, not sorry. Anastasia. Oh, Anastasia is complicated. She's smart, elegant, and married to Evgeny. Yeah, I know. You can romance her, which I did. Pretty easily, I might add, and in her stolen dress, no less. But apparently if you don't end up offing her husband, her romance outcomes are messy. One Reddit user said that even after pursuing her, she still chose her husband in the end. There is an opportunity to charm either one of them into saving their marriage, if you wanted to. She's the music school teacher, and she can give you night lessons. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Honestly, I have no idea if my brain just makes everything gay, but she spends an awful lot of time complimenting your piano fingers.
Please, feel free to stay and practice, though. You're still always welcome to play here, of course. Who could resist looking at your beautiful fingers touching the ivory? Excuse me. I didn't mean it like that.
Well, that would be a real shame. I was hoping you enjoyed looking at them. They're rather soft as well.
They do. I couldn't help but notice when I directed your hand on the keyboard. Well, I must run. There's an errand I have to attend to that I completely forgot about.
I mean, that was something, right? That's not just all in my head. I mean, that's not even subtext at this point. All right, moving on. Roman. Roman is a romantic bookshop owner who loves folklore. He's kind and smart. He's one of those characters that doesn't push himself into the spotlight. I hadn't intended on romancing him, but it did end up that way. Since you can romance multiple people, he is one of the more helpful humans because of his knowledge on folklore, which, being a vampire, is pretty useful. I also really loved his bookshop. It's cluttered and whimsical and cozy and is exactly how a bookshop should be. He's got a bedroom in the back. He definitely has the life I would want, for sure. He wants to travel the world collecting people's stories as an ethnographer, an anthropologist. And if you romance him, you can even turn him. He'll show up in the epilogue one way or another, and you'll find out that being an immortal has been great for his research. He's always been very non-judgmental, and I'm pretty sure he knew you were a vampire all along, or at least pretty early on. So you're juggling feeding, studying, relationships, quests. Some quests show up late. Some disappear if you wait too long. Some happen very quietly. Faina's quest, for instance, was cut short in my playthrough because I didn't constantly check up on her, or maybe I didn't pass a skill check or something. I didn't even realize until it was too late. So yeah, you can start feeling the cost of action and inaction pretty early on. Cabernet isn't just about vampires. It's about systems, about theater, about grief, about survival, about the cost of power when it's drawn not just from blood, but from silence. At its most mechanical level, Cabernet gives you stats like humanity and nihilism. And sure, that could have been a flavorless morality slider in lesser hands, but here, those stats bleed into every interaction. Every power you use, every relationship you build, do you soften with the memory of who you were? Or do you sharpen your teeth and play the part expected of you? Humanity governs empathy, remembrance, connection. It's what allows you to melt the ice in people, to resist domination, to retain your sense of self in the face of centuries. The more human you are, the more you feel the weight of your choices. Nihilism, on the other hand, is both a poison and a balm. It's detachment as protection, the comfort of giving into what you are, embracing the role of a predator, forgetting what it's like to hurt and therefore forgetting what it means to care. And yet, nihilism opens doors. It gives you access to powers that care nothing for collateral. And Cabernet doesn't judge you for either. Not really. I ended up with high humanity, but also pretty high-level nihilism. There is one way to gain nihilism by feeding on the rabbits in the forest, which I didn't entirely understand since I thought it would be better than feeding on humans. These stats unlock other dialogue options as well. Oh, and did I mention that you can't save scum? The game pretty much forces you to play things out, make choices in the moment, and suffer the consequences. You can only save your game by heading back to your room and clicking on the vanity. The game, fortunately, does autosave at some points, but I really wish there was a better save option because, let's be real, while this game is replayable, you probably want to check out different choices and options without having to start from the very beginning each and every time. I would have to fly back to my bedroom quite often, and there are only so many save slots, so alas. Flying, by the way, is super fun in this game. I love turning into a cute little bat, flying through second-story windows, terrorizing the townsfolk. There is a run feature in the game, but bat mode is faster and a way more fun option in my opinion. Your bedroom becomes a safe haven, and you can even decorate it. Change the carpet, wallpaper, bedding, artwork. You have your wardrobe to select from in the morning and a bookshelf to display all the things you've gathered in your new life. This felt really nice, especially since you basically start with nothing. I loved the element of having somewhere to return to, and I did think it added to the whole role-playing aspect of the game. Let's take a short break, and when I return, let's talk about some of the folklore. This game is steeped in folklore. Aside from vampires, you meet a Rusalka and a Nav. No domovoys or kikimoras, unfortunately. Both the Rusalka and Nav have their own quest lines. In the game, you encounter a Rusalka, a spirit of the drowned, near a lake outside of town. Eventually, she reveals to you her backstory. Once human, young and in love, wronged by the man she loved and drowned by his hand. She wants this hand. She asks you to find him, kill him, and bring it to her. Only then will she be at peace. Like most other quest lines, there are different outcomes for different actions. So you can kill the man, take his hand, and return it to the Rusalka, spare him completely after hearing his side of the story, or spare his life but still cut off his hand and lie to the Rusalka. And the Rusalka's reaction varies accordingly. If you complete the quest with her satisfied, you can receive a reward, a fishbone comb, and the quest ends. If you fail, she attacks you. And then there's that third option where you just lie to her, which I think is shittier than killing the guy. The Rusalka in Slavic folklore is typically the spirit of a young woman who died violently, often by drowning or betrayal, and returns as a ghostly water nymph to haunt lakes, sometimes luring men to their deaths or exacting revenge. In the game, the Rusalka becomes a mirror for themes of betrayal, class, otherness, and the monstrous. Her story resonates with your vampire story. Both you and she are returned from death in different ways. Now, I was already fully willing to kill this guy, so my opinion might be a little biased. The Rusalka reveals that she was in love with a young man, and he with her. They had quite the romance, and would often share stolen moments out on the water. The problem? The man had class status. and she did not. He was to be married off and didn't seem too broken up about it. Spoiler, the Rusalka was. It eventually led to some sort of quarrel. She fell overboard. He did little to nothing to help her. She drowned, and he went on his merry way. He didn't tell a soul what had happened. The girl was lost to the world, and the Rusalka born, not even remembering the name of the girl she was before. You later learn who this man was, and you confront him. He tells you his side of things, and honestly, hearing his story just made my conviction in avenging the Rusalka all the more valid. But he adds in that he knew it would never work out with the young woman who loved him. He led her on, like intentionally, rowed her out into the middle of the lake to break it off with her, and ended up letting her drown. Rowed back and went on as if nothing had happened. Sure, he claims he was racked with guilt, but he seems to be doing pretty okay. Oh, and did I mention he couldn't swim? Neither of them could. So was the water burial truly an accident? Truly? This questline could be easily missed, and it doesn't have a real effect on the rest of the story, but here's why I think it's important. It brings up one of the recurring themes of power and servitude. See, the man had class status. The Rusalka had none. My cat agrees. The quest underscores how power enables abuse, and how the powerless become monstrous when they try to reclaim agency. So yeah, if you sympathize with a dude, help me understand why. Now let's backtrack a little. Remember that otherworldly thing that saved you from the basement/dungeon? It turns out to be a nav. You learn that a nav is a sort of vengeful spirit, and you owe it a favor. A favor that he asks you to cash in on Kupala Night, which is a real Slavic midsummer festival. He asks you, or tells you, to burn a wreath on the door of someone you care for, thereby ending their life. There is a way to avoid killing anyone, but I spent almost no time making my way over to Evgeny's. The nav shows up later in the game as well, depending on your choices. You can earn his respect and therefore his help, or you can disappoint him. You learn how he became what he is today after attending one of Roman's tours. But I'll let you enjoy that on your own. After Kupala Night, there's a saying, blood is thicker than wine. But in Cabernet, both stain. We meet Lisa's brother, her little brother. Just a man trying to make sense of the ruins of his family and maybe trying to better himself in any way that he can. Their father is an alcoholic and rather abusive, and after Lisa dies, the brother becomes all the more hopeless. He is not really thrilled to see Lisa. The dynamic is fractured, full of pain and accusation. He doesn't understand why she abandoned him. And maybe he's right. The past is ugly, and it doesn't get prettier just because you've lived long enough to forget it. You can choose to tell your brother, Koya, that you are a vampire, but I was so concerned about the repercussions that wasn't even an option for me. Like early on in the game, you'll hear over and over that you're not allowed to tell anybody that you're a vampire, and you're not allowed to be around the people that you were when you were alive. So when our brother comes into town, I thought I was protecting him by not telling him that I was a vampire, when in reality, I should have told him. Because I think that there's a way in the game to actually save him and or make him into a vampire. Unfortunately, he died in my playthrough. From there, things begin to spiral. The town grows restless. There's a war between the elite and the revolutionaries who represent the working class. The line between monster and human blurs completely. The authorities come knocking, murder investigations, angry mobs, people missing. You are forced to choose. Will you stand apart from this dying world or intervene? Will you use your strength to dominate or to protect? Like I said, Koya didn't make it through in my playthrough. He was one of the only glimmers of innocence in this decaying place. And his death wasn't just a loss, it was a statement. You can't save everyone. And sometimes you can't save anyone. But the story keeps moving, creaking forward under the weight of its own rot. I'm definitely not going to go too much into the ending spoilers because just a few words can spoil the whole thing. But there are multiple endings in Cabernet, and they're not all neat. They're not all clean. They're not all good or bad. They're consequential. My ending, I stayed with Elisa. I turned Roman into a vampire, apparently, and he's traipsing through the world recording everyone's stories. Anastasia's picture hangs like a question mark above my hearth. And I have a cute little vampire cat. Yes, Augustus. And there was hope in this ending. Not in the, yay, we saved everything and we fixed it kind of way, but in the, we did the best that we can kind of way. Lisa doesn't win, but she survives. And she remembers. And maybe that's enough. If you keep playing, exploring, you'll find optional epilogues, snippets of reflection. The state of the town, the people you helped or harmed, the legacy you carved with teeth and sorrow. At this point, Lisa has moved. Like I said, in my playthrough, she's partnered with Elisa and still maintains a good working relationship with the doctor. We turned the cat into a vampire and he lives with us as well. And this is currently my desktop background because I just love the art so much. The epilogue takes place sometime during the 90s, the 1990s to be clear, and the outfits have changed accordingly and are just really cute. You walk through Lisa's house and she tells you stories about all the interactive objects. Then you eventually take a cab to the town where it all began. The town is changing, and yet things also seem frozen in time. Here you get the final chapter in everyone's story. The epilogue is pretty lengthy, but I still really enjoyed it. Cabernet is a story fermented in grief, bottled in power, and uncorked through every choice you make. Yes, it's a game about vampires, but it's also a game about what it means to carry history in your body, what you keep, what you forget, what you pass down. It asks you if you can still be human when humanity keeps asking you to be less. It asks what kind of life is worth remembering when survival demands forgetting. It's about being watched, performing, pretending to be civilized while the world burns outside. It's about class and servitude and what honest work looks like when no one gets to be honest anymore. And in the end, it's about love, the kind that endures after the last light fades. I chose Elisa. I turned Roman. I lost Koya. I kept Anastasia's memory on the wall, not out of guilt, but out of sentiment. I don't know if my version of Lisa got redemption, but she definitely had some self-reflection. And maybe sometimes that's all we get. So send me your favorite endings, your messiest decisions, the one choice you still regret. And while you're at it, what games do you want to hear about next? Which ones have you started playing or replaying this time of year? This has been the Point & Quest podcast. If you enjoyed it, leave a review or share it with someone who knows that sometimes the scariest thing about a vampire story is how human it feels. Until next time, stay sharp, stay strange, and maybe go easy on the wine.